Coronavirus cases in Nigeria rise to 232.
Christians observe Palm Sunday in seclusion due to COVID-19.
Before now, some nations in crisis were left on their own. We hope that this will be a new beginning, that the mighty nations, the smaller and weak nations, will form one global family.
As you can see, the entire church is closed. So the message to our people is, in order for Christ to truly be king, he has to reign in your heart. And in your homes there, even though we are not able to come out, you can still hold on to him. And shortly, very soon, we believe that God will bring us out of these problems.
Police in Lagos arrest Nollywood actress for violating lockdown restrictions.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the lockdown in states due to COVID-19 plus interventions by the National Orientation Agency.
As we speak, the world has crossed the 1 million mark of COVID-19 cases and still counting, as the pandemic has brought nations of the world that can boast of robust national healthcare services and plans to their knees.
You can say that again, Kirian. Now, the pandemic has been so devastating worldwide that an Indian couple recently named their newborn twins Corona and COVID as a kind of reminder of the pandemic. And back home, Nigeria recorded her first COVID-19 case on the 27th of February this year. And at the moment, the country has 232 cases with 5 fatalities, but at least 33 persons have been treated and discharged.
Indeed, the Minister of Health, Dr. Osiage Hanire, at the daily presidential task force briefing last Friday, gave indications that there could be sustained community transmission of COVID-19 in the country, which in turn would give rise to more cases.
Of course, the projections necessitated the presidential directive for a lockdown of Lagos and Ogun states, as well as the Federal Capital Territory, which are areas not only with more cases, but where about 6,000 COVID-19 contact cases are being traced.
That aspect is quite it's quite threatening, actually.
Yeah, but you remember that the NCDC did say sometime mid last week that they had succeeded in tracking down about 3,500. By now, those figures would have escalated in terms of tracking.
Exactly. What about the remaining 2,000 cases? And these are people who are already having different kind of engagement with their family members, friends. Well, we just hope it doesn't escalate. Well, the Center for Disease Control, that's the NCDC, has admitted that the lockdown has greatly enabled the tracking of 71% of the 6,000 contact cases who are being tested for coronavirus. Testing laboratories have also been increased to 8 nationwide.
Well, Kirian, of course, it was observed in the Federal Capital Territory last week that the consideration given by the Presidential Task Force for residents in affected states to shop for food in neighborhood markets between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. was being abused as more traffic was noticed in Abuja metropolis, unlike the first 2 days of the lockdown. And even today, you can see a number of vehicles on the road. Most of them, the usual unlicensed taxis, otherwise referred to as kabu-kabu.
It's one of the reasons Good Morning Nigeria would be appraising the lockdown in states this morning. To what extent has the restrictions helped in containment of the pandemic, and what more is required to arrest the ravaging coronavirus pandemic. We will have our guests respond to these questions and more on the program today. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. My name is Kirian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join Kirian to also welcome you to the program, reaching you as always live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We are here in our Abuja headquarters studios. In the course of the program, of course, we shall also take a look at the interventions of the National Orientation Agency since the outbreak of COVID-19 in the country, plus regular complementary segments other than the business package. Right now, let's listen to our other colleague, Nolin Eberame, as she gives us the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Nolin.
Good morning, Kingsley and Kirian. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, says 8 new cases of COVID-19 have been reported in Nigeria, 5 in Lagos, 2 in FCT, and 1 in Kaduna. This latest report brings the number of confirmed cases to 232 as at 9:30 p.m. on 5th of April 2020. Meanwhile, the NCDC says 33 patients have been discharged while 5 deaths have so far been recorded. Yesterday was Palm Sunday, a day Christians commemorate the triumphant entry of Jesus into Jerusalem before his death on the cross. The corona pandemic, however, forced faithful to mark Palm Sunday in isolation. A private mass was celebrated by Most Reverend Ignatius Kaigama, whose message centered on hope and trust in God in overcoming the challenges.
It's not just the cross woven with a palm branch. So we encourage our people to keep hope alive and never be discouraged. This is extraordinary. This is a strange time, and I'm sure all this will pass.
We have been using the technological opportunities to reach out through Facebook, through YouTube, but as you can see, the entire church is closed. So the message to our people is, in order for Christ to truly be king, he has to reign in your hearts. And in your homes there, even though we are not able to come out, you can still hold on to him. And shortly, very soon, we believe that God will bring us out of these problems.
The management of the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, UBTH, has revealed that the health workers exposed to COVID-19 patients prior to their confirmation as infected are asymptomatic and are being monitored closely according to current guidelines. The federal government is reassuring Nigerians of its continued commitment in ensuring that those who have tested positive for COVID-19 are given good medical attention, calling on people to continue observing necessary health guidelines issued by the Federal Ministry of Health and the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to stay safe. A statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs indicates that the recent commendation to Nigeria by Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, on the effective way Nigeria is handling coronavirus is a morale booster to the federal government on its determination to curb the spread of the global pandemic. The attention of Lagos State Police Command was drawn to a viral video showing a large number of persons, mainly in the entertainment industry, in an estate along Aja Ibeju Lekki axis, Lagos, celebrating a birthday party organized by Funke Akindele Bello and her husband. Police Public Relations Officer, Lagos State Command, DSP Bala Elkana, in a statement said police detectives from the state CID Yaba were promptly drafted to the location. Funke Akindele was arrested. Though investigation is ongoing, efforts are intensified to arrest the remaining persons in the video, among whom are Aziz Fashola, aka Naira Marley, and Abdul Rashid Bello, aka JJC Skills. They are in their best interest urged to report at the state CID Yaba on Monday, 6th April 2020, or risk being declared wanted. That's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Kieran after this break. I am Nolene Ebel-Ame. Thank you for watching.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Son, being good at something requires strength. It requires putting in more. That's why the new improved Bonvita is packed with vitality and a richer, creamier taste.
The main way coronavirus spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Treat your family to a cereal that's made from the natural goodness of maize and soya protein and specially combined with Grain Smart, a smart combination of vitamins and iron, so that they have the right kind of energy to help them reach their full potential and turn the simple into amazing. Eat up and carry go, because nothing do you. Golden Morn, make every day amazing.
Nestle, good food, good life.
And it is irregularities in his breathing. The first thing they said was he has a Down syndrome, but the Down syndrome thing is not even the problem now. It is the heartbeat that definitely has a hole in his heart. That was where oh my God, that day was just a different thing.
They are germs. You will fall sick. Daughter, why don't you stop them?
Mom, stopping the kids from playing stops the learning. That's why we stop the germs.
Indeed, Safeguard fights against germs. Safeguard removes 99% of germs.
Why don't you stop them? We have to stop. Not the kids, but...
And you are watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we thank you for staying with us. Next is Newspaper Review.
so we'll take a look at the front pages of the papers that we have this morning. And again, as usual, the front pages are dominated by stories on coronavirus. Let's begin with the Nation newspaper. Above the nameplate of the Nation newspaper, Akindele, that's otherwise known as Jennifer, arrested. Naira Marley wanted for holding party. Details on page 7. Wike lashes federal government over handling of coronavirus. That's page 6. Osun discharges patient and 109 returnees. According to the governor, extend lockdown. Details can be found also on page 6. Then below the nameplate, you have a story, abducted Adamawa Nolge chair freed. That's page 4. No UTME cutoff mark yet, says JAMB. Details on page 26. Now the lead story comes with a kicker, virus. 33 doctors and nurses in isolation after contacts. And 3 riders to that headline, NMA, NARD, and TUC. NMA is Medical Association, NARD is Association of Resident Doctors, and TUC is Trade Union Congress, KIC, as medical personnel in Lagos, Benin, and Ilorin go under surveillance. Row over government's plan to bring in Chinese doctors. 10-year-old and 4 others discharged as patients die. Below that, you have the photograph that says Pope holds Palm Sunday in empty basilica. Adeboye urges peace. A concord to Nigerians, don't lose faith. Details are inside the paper. Then, as usual, the Nation has a sidebar. Also there on the front page, giving in figures the tally of the devastation of coronavirus worldwide. You can see there over 1.25 million cases have been reported, and over 68,000 people have died from the coronavirus, and nearly 260,000 have recovered. Now for Nigeria, the figures are there starkly: 223 cases, deaths 5, recoveries we have 33, with active cases being 194. Lagos continues to lead with 120 cases. FCT, that will be 47, and Osun is 20, even though Lagos has 120 and FCT 47. Per capita, you would say that the FCT is ahead because the population of Lagos is far more than that of the Federal Capital Territory, where you have 47. And then you have other riders there, well, just below the sidebar. Footballer's body for postmortem COVID-19 test in Benue. Airpeace for China to bring in medical equipment. Abia to mass-produce face masks. 10 pastors held for holding service. Call doctors reject conscription. 52 end isolation in Oyo. Hoodlums steal bags of rice and gari. Kaigama to government, be sensitive. Autumn and deputy test negative. Boris Johnson, that is the British Prime Minister, admitted in hospital. And just right at the foot of the front page, gunmen kidnap Nasarawa governor's advisor, and Queen of England raises hope, page 5. Kieran.
Yeah. A lot of that on COVID-19, across the globe. Let's turn to leadership newspaper from top to bottom. OPEC, Russia meet Thursday on crude oil supply cuts. With a rider, federal government plans integration of artisanal refineries to curb oil theft. Details of that story can be found on page 6. All right. Niger State relaxes curfew, orders workers to resume. It's on page 2 of leadership newspaper. Now, coronavirus, the lead story. US, Germany, France in war of masks. With several riders to that story. Prepare for more deaths next week, Trump tells Americans. Nigeria's confirmed cases now 232 with 5 deaths. Lagos discharges 5 more patients. Federal government takes delivery of medical supplies from Turkey. Christians mark Palm Sunday at home, and Airtel Nigeria donates 1.9 billion naira to COVID-19 fight. The stories are on page 4 of the leadership newspaper. Now, below that, on the right-hand side, Shippers Council kicks against exclusion from port session review. That story is also on page 4. Now, at the bottom of the leadership newspaper, we have some other stories. Dangote Cement woos investors with 100 billion bond issue. It's on page 19. Funke Akindele arrested for flouting lockdown order. It's on page 11. Then Adeni did well as Operation Lafia Dole commander. That's according to Buratai. Details on page 12. Now, Appeal Court President orders hearing of time-bound cases. This on page 2. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, Kieran, I mean, I think the stories are fairly straightforward, but I mean, virtually everything on COVID-19. Let's begin with a story that is not there on the front page, and which is one that has been trending since the weekend. The attempt to provide a linkage between 5G, that's the so-called 5th generation technology in telecommunications, and coronavirus. I mean, it's an incredible thing to imagine that people are linking the technology with the origin of a virus. I mean, if they were talking about cancer, one would understand as a result of radiation. But the linkage is tenuous, and the NCC, of course, has also responded to that.
Yeah. So I think the reason why many people, not just in Nigeria, but globally, try to do that is because of the high radiation associated with 5G. I actually experienced a demonstration of 5G at the Hebrew University in 2014, when they had a 1 week of a science week, they called it, right? So they showed what it was going to look like, when it comes. But then, globally, it's about 10 countries that have licensed 5G, especially South Korea, in some 52 cities in China, and so on. And what 5G does, it doesn't travel so far like 4G and 3G, right? It has a limited coverage, but it's more powerful than the other one. So the fear is that because of the high radiation that emanates from 5G, that it could transmit disease. Some said it could even form a kind of cause human cells to form viruses within, but that is not a possibility.
That's right.
It's not a possibility because, like you rightly pointed out, what it could do if you stay too much, if you stay about 24 hours non-stop under a high radiation, well, it could kill the cells in your body, the DNA. It could also cause some kind of a mutation that could lead to cancer.
That's right.
And so there's no correlation between virus transmission and 5G. So I don't know why many people are. And throughout yesterday, I received so many calls and so many publications via the social media on this issue. Some from America, some from different parts of the world. People making statement on something that they cannot verify.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you just mentioned America. Again, another story that is not on the front pages of the paper, but which also went viral over the weekend was the surge at 2 of Nigeria's airports, particularly here in Abuja. The United States government said it was going to evacuate its citizens from Nigeria to return to the U.S. And of course, from the figures that we see, the U.S. continues to lead the rest of the world in terms of the number of cases of coronavirus. The U.S. has recorded well over 300,000 cases and over 9,000 deaths. Although that Italy, of course, is ahead in terms of the number of fatalities. And, virtually, I mean, those persons who are Nigerian Americans, because the Constitution in Chapter 3 permits dual citizenship, a number of them were also said to have gone to the airport. And so the evacuation had to be shelved. And I think they said that there are now new guidelines for those who would wish to be evacuated. First, those persons must be registered with the American embassy, and second, they must also show evidence of tax clearance for 3 years, and then of course they must also have a pass that would have been issued to them.
Yeah. My concern, Kesley, is the what is vogue about evacuating people? You're evacuating people to places where COVID-19 is also ravaging.
Absolutely.
So one wonders where you're taking them to. Where, if you're in a secure place, if you are living in Nigeria or any other country, for instance, and you are secured where you are, you can observe the lockdown, then you stay on. This is about life and death we're talking about.
That's right. That's right. As you said, I mean, the U.S. has the highest number of COVID-19 cases in the world, and in the U.S., the New York, the state of New York, it also has the highest number of cases and fatalities arising from COVID-19, and they expect further spread.
And followed by New Jersey, which is just a nearby state.
That's right, one of the tri-state areas. And that is that. Then the other story, Kirian, we took it in the news bulletin, and it's also here, Funke Akindele, otherwise known as Jennifer, which is her stage name, and other persons, have been picked up on account of hosting the party. And you just ask yourself the simple question, why this arrogant disregard for regulations?
For such a lady who has followers, millions of followers, all over the world, to have done that is questionable. And I learned she has apologized to Nigeria for doing that. But as a NCDC ambassador, she should have led by example. She should be the person, telling Nigerians the right thing to do, and not for her to engage in flouting, government order that has to do with COVID-19, which is a very, very serious matter globally.
I mean, if she's apologized, fine, but did she need to apologize? Why didn't you defer the party that you were hosting for your husband? I mean, God granting you long life and good health and prosperity, there will be many more parties to celebrate. So what was the big deal in being defiant of saying, look, we're going to go ahead with this, and then later you are apologizing? There are rules on social distancing, and it has been said that according to the tally of the figures, the Etiosa area, I'm not quite sure exactly where the estate is, if it's in Etiosa or in Bejuleki local government area, that's has the highest number of COVID-19 cases in Lagos. And this is a time, a while ago, Kirian, you were talking about the challenge of actually tracing. And the purpose of a lockdown is to ensure contact tracing. So if you begin to further extend the contacts, it makes the tracing much more complicated.
Exactly.
Much more complicated. I mean, I didn't think that was the right thing to do. And appropriately, the police, have taken those persons. There are regulations on COVID-19 in Lagos, and the penalties are also spelled out.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
But there's the lead story, Kirian. The lead story is a very worrisome one. 33 doctors, that's the lead story from the nation, 33 doctors and nurses in isolation after contacts. We are seeing instances now where persons who recently returned from abroad develop symptoms of COVID-19 will go to the hospital and not fully disclose their travel history.
Exactly, and that is where the problem lies. And if the people on the front line are affected, then we are doomed, in this fight against coronavirus. It's very, very dangerous. I don't know why people will hide the fact that they traveled. What is wrong with that? I just came in to Nigeria, perhaps a week ago or thereabout. I am having these symptoms. What is wrong with that?
That's right. All right, Kirian. Let's see if you have an editorial. Maybe just mention up the headlines, and then we sign off on the super review.
It's just beyond lamentations over healthcare system. You're just making an assessment of the nation's healthcare system, whether it can really be said to have the capacity to handle the COVID-19 issue, which of course is not true, based on what we have on ground.
Absolutely.
And based on, projections, made a few years ago on how we can establish a specialized hospitals in Nigeria. That never happened. And the editorial is talking about money that ought to have been used to establish major hospitals in Nigeria, which went down the drain, starting from 1999 to 2015, as the case may be.
All right. Well, Kirian, that's another running issue that we'll return to from time to time. I'd like to thank the editorial was from the Daily Independent, I believe.
Yeah, exactly, Daily Independent.
Okay, all right. So that does it for us on this super review segment. We're taking a short break now. When we return, we'll go ahead with our items for conversation this morning.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person, who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
I had invited the boss for lunch.
Okay.
Then I get called to handle some emergency. Then my plan B, the caterer, gets hopelessly stuck somewhere.
What?
Then I call hubby, and he says,
What are we going to do?
Relax, we got this.
No, we don't.
Now it's up to me and him to save the day.
Are you okay?
With help from something special, the new Niger pot seasoning from Maggi, specially made from natural stockfish, smoked fish, crayfish, and other ingredients to give your soups and pottages that Nigerian bottom pot taste.
You need to tell me how you got that bottom pot taste.
And then later she says,
Come see me Monday morning. Let's talk about the new branch we're opening.
Just then my plan B shows up. And just when I thought the drama was over.
My sister, let's go to business.
Delicious bottom pot, yeah. Now believe this Koroti. You know if you touch black man. If you like, gather the whole Niger, come together, make the cough. Nothing.
Which one you want?
Give me V&D.
I beg, get small pieces.
How much you want to give her?
Give me 200.
Take your change now.
You don't want your changes.
My people, this coronavirus, na serious matter. May una wash una hands regularly. Come use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. If you no see water, wash your hand. Make una sit down for house. You see this virus, so e no get leg. Now we dey waka kurukere. No waka around, make the virus for die. No forget, say the betterment of our people. Now for your handy day.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur Foundation.
City Hawks. Let's go, guys.
Babe.
Yeah?
Would you please turn on your hotspot?
Okay, there you go. My lady. Play this ball. Hey, hold this guy down.
Password, please.
0808.
Baby girl, you are one in a million. Babe.
Yeah.
You have a message.
From you, maybe. Read it out now. Read it out to my ears.
Nobody. Free your mind with Airtel Smart Talk and enjoy calls to all networks at a flat rate of 11 kobo per second. Dial *315# to join.
Fine girl. Can I have your phone, man?
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Our first conversation this morning has to do with the National Orientation Agency and COVID-19 in Nigeria. And it's my pleasure to welcome the Director General of NOA, Garba Abari, to the program. Thank you, sir, for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Kirian. Good morning.
All right, Dr. Abari, I also joined Kirian to welcome you to the program. Of course, we had you much earlier in the sense of coming to discuss what the NOA would do with respect to sensitizing Nigerians on COVID-19 in the early days when we had the index case. But thereafter, we've received, of course, a number of tweets on various aspects of our conversation, urging the NOA to do this, urging the NOA to do that, in terms of ramping up public enlightenment and also expanding the frontiers of message and messaging to Nigerians at large. So what has the NOA been up to?
Well, thank you very much, Kansley. And let me seize this opportunity and, of course, put it on record. our deep appreciation to Nigerians for always sending, the same tweets and perhaps WhatsApp messages and that the NTA, indeed many other media how this must have been receiving on what the NOA should have been doing and must do also gets to me. And this underscores the fact that there is quite a large quantum of expectations that Nigerians put on the National Orientation Agency. Having said that, I would want to say that since the start or the commencement or the outbreak of the COVID-19, we have not been resting on our oars. The nature of the operating environment makes it such that we have to do our sensitization and the advocacy functions in a segmented manner. Now, what do I mean by the nature of the environment? We have a large quantum of people that we would want to reach on the social media, which is one of the most cost-effective way of reaching a very large number of people. We have 3 social media handles: the Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitter. Anyone who is active on Twitter will definitely see how active the Twitter handle has been, or what we have been on our social media, Facebook and Instagram pages. That is one segment of our sensitization and advocacy work. We are doing it alongside, especially 2 key players, in this sensitization. The Center for Disease Control that gives us content, and the Ministry of Health that also complements where it becomes necessary. We also take information from the presidential textbooks. This is one. The second, and which is actually now proven to be a bit like the weakest link in our sensitization chain, is what involves person to person, community to community sensitization, especially by way of trying to make people aware of the dangers that there are inherent in the COVID-19 affliction. I want to say that in greater parts of rural Nigeria, up to now, it is business as usual. In fact, it is not even only in rural Nigeria, even in many cities and towns, it is still business as usual. But this is not actually for lack of sensitization. This is not for lack of information, because the National Orientation Agency haven't had these 3-tier operations with the federal, the state and the local governments. We go to, in fact, I want to tell you an example that we had in Onimo local government in Imo State, where our community mobilization officers working with the Igwe were going around sending out information that we have already translated in Igbo with handheld loudspeakers. But the response of the community is they have already heard that this is only a disease of people who come from London. This is a disease of people who come from America. This is so what in concern person who come from America. I never go London. I never go America. But you see, before you can get people to sit down and to listen, there's quite a number of things also that are like impinging, on the efficacy of this sensitization. One are deep-seated cultural practices. Deep-seated cultural practices. Deep-seated religious practices. Now, what do I mean by deep-seated cultural practices? Like eating in community, communally, which is very common up to now, you find it enough. Like getting together people to celebrate the commencement of the planting season, which is a big ceremony in many communities. And when you ask people to self-distance, what does it mean to them? That they should not shake, What does it mean to them? Because the issues of handshaking, for example, is something which is cultural and therefore is even an instantaneous practice. When you meet a friend, when you meet a neighbor, when you meet, it's automatic, you just extend a hand. Yeah. Now, these are some of the issues. Now, in addition to this, are also the issue of the new concepts now that have come. Do not forget that we were already in the field on Lassa. You know, when the outbreak came on Lassa fever, when the outbreak of the COVID-19 came, so we streamlined. Now, how do you explain people to self-isolate? How do you explain them? How do you explain quarantine? How do you explain having to wear masks, for example? Because even on the social media, we also had a lot of issues whether to wear a mask or not to wear a mask, and if you are to wear a mask, how and when. And these are things that actually will have to involve massive cultural orientation. So I think the National Orientation Agency has been up and doing. We are in local governments, we are in communities, but we are also not saying that we are there yet, but a lot needs to be done because out there, not for lack of information, but for this deep cultural and religious practice I have mentioned, it is still business as usual. And I think I will want to call for wider engagement, wider involvement of stakeholders on a broader scale. Governors, local government chairmen, traditional rulers, religious leaders.
Well, from the example you have given us, it does seem that you are working with the local authorities, which is very important, and we will send down your message irrespective of cultural affiliations. Now, let's be more specific about what you are telling Nigerians, because as you rightly pointed out, many believe that COVID-19 is a big man sickness, apparently oblivious of the harm that could cause to a wider community. There are myths associated with COVID-19. First, some say if you drink water regularly, warm water regularly, that if it attacks your throat, that it will wash it down, and there it goes. Some also believe that children and young persons don't get it. Another one is that if you can hold your breath for 10 seconds without coughing or something, so these are things that we're beginning to hear. And of course, many Nigerians are gullible, and I believe in certainly everything they see on social media, they believe it. Now, how are you countering such myths? Because it's all part of the message that we expect you to send across to Nigerians.
Part of the way we are countering this actually is one I've just come to see when I was coming into the studio. You will see some of the videos that have been very well acted and produced. So we send out this on the social media and on the conventional media. But the messages that come from the Center for Disease Control are the messages that we translate. We have translated in Hausa, in English, in Fulfulde, in Kanuri, in Efik, in Pidgin, and these are. And they keep changing. They keep changing. For example, the idea of if you drink warm water, it cures the disease or it stops you from getting afflicted, we can track that. In fact, only yesterday, a large quantum of such sensitization material were sent to my inbox from the Risk Control Management Committee of the NCDC, which we will want to start working on as from today. Now, as we make progress, information keeps coming. Like, for example, the last 2-3 days has been about 5G and how this is definitely going to kill all of Nigerians through radiation, through cancer, through. So the dynamics of the debate and the conversation keeps changing, and in the same way and quantum, we also respond to it as it arises. So what do we say? For example, in every local government, our first sensitization started with our community mobilization officers to record themselves in the language of that community. Record themselves in the language of that community, and that recording in the language of that community is what we take to the communities. Because if you talk to a person in his own domain, in his own domicile, in his own language, it becomes easier for him to relate to that information. And this is some of the things we are doing. So I hope that actually answers the question.
Well, you have the entire country.
Yes.
774 local government areas as your, shall I say, playground?
As my friend before 5
yes,
okay, my playground.
For you, as the National Orientation Agency to carry out your sensitization activities. And considering how COVID-19 happened upon us, we've been grappling with this now for just about 2 months. How sufficiently resourced are you to do some of the things you would still like to do in order to begin to break down some of the cultural, if not religious, resistance to the core content of your message and messaging?
In terms of how adequately resourced we are, I want to say we are not anywhere near what we will require. We are not anywhere near what we will require. I appreciate actually the depth of the public sector funding, and that explains why, as you can see, majority of the sensitization jingles I have to do in partnership with either donor agencies or civil society or. This is just the fact of the matter. In terms of sufficient resource, we are just not anywhere near what we would want to have. Perhaps, given the gravity of the situation, and I always keep insisting that now that the disease is here with us, and we have even started recording fatalities. You can see the last time I came, it was only 1 case of fatality. Today we are at 5. When I came, we were less than 100 afflictions. Today we are over 200. So the issue is prevention and the containment must remain our primary focus. Prevention and the containment is but a function of the quantum of correct information that should reach the citizens. And the reaching of citizens in the same manner and in the same way by which the information must remain relevant and credible. And that is why we have to deploy a number of platforms. We have to use religious leaders, we have to use traditional rulers, we have to use civil society organizations that are working in different aspects of health and the rest of them. We have to use, most importantly, the media, social and conventional. But resources-wise, let me put on record that the National Orientation Agency is looking for resources from all sources, material, financial, and human.
Yes, from all indications, you're not properly resourced. You need some funds to carry out the responsibilities.
I am not resourced. Not even properly. No resourced.
That is the good message, because NOA really requires to be adequately funded, to enable Nigerians to get to understand COVID-19, and not just COVID-19. There are other issues, that arise from time to time. If not nationally, to be global. We require NOA to do that job. And at this point, we'd like to thank you immensely for being part of our program this morning. Of course, you started this conversation when COVID-19 hit Nigeria, and you are still part of it. Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Dr. Garba Abari, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Kiran. Thank you, Kinsley. Thank you, Nigerians.
All right, Good Morning Nigeria continues momentarily.
There is a lot of fake news and report circulating, especially on social media, on the coronavirus. Do not believe or partake in the spread of these fake reports. If it is not on the official website or news from the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, disregard such report. Only together can we beat this virus. Only together can we overcome this pandemic. Follow the instructions and guidelines provided to combat this virus. Most importantly, stay at home. Self-isolate, regardless of your status. The virus doesn't move unless we move. Let us work together to better Nigeria. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide. Don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
In Nigeria, there is one sound we need to silence. So let's silence toothache before it starts with Oral-B All-Round Protection. Its advanced technology helps prevent both tooth holes and gum problems that can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your teeth, giving them all-round protection. Because the only sound we really want to hear is that of our future. For healthier, stronger teeth in 1 week.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, has been declared by the World Health Organization as a global pandemic. While clinical trials are ongoing for a vaccine and a possible cure, there is no known treatment for the coronavirus. Nigeria has recorded some of these cases, and people are advised to take these preventive measures to keep themselves safe and contain the further spread of the virus. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water or use hand sanitizers all the time. Maintain social distancing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Practice respiratory hygiene. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. Do not panic. Stop the spread of unconfirmed news. Follow the official government news outlets and report all cases immediately. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
The program is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We will continue our conversation on COVID-19 with an appraisal of the lockdown in affected states in the country and also look at containment measures by both states. As a background for the conversation, here is a report put together by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
Citizens in these areas are to stay in their homes. Travel to or from other states should be postponed. All businesses and offices within these locations should be fully closed during this period. We will use this containment period to identify, trace, and isolate all individuals that have come into contact with confirmed cases. We will ensure the treatment of confirmed cases while restricting further spread to other states.
The presidential broadcast on COVID-19 set the stage for the lockdown in 3 states, Lagos, Ogun, and the Federal Capital Territory, effective 11 p.m. 30th of March 2020. The lockdown was effected immediately in the FCT and Lagos states, but Ogun State requested a shift to Friday, 3rd of April, to allow the people to stock their homes with food items. For the FCT and Lagos states, there is so far relative compliance with the enforcement officers on the roads to enforce the sit-at-home order. On the 3rd day of the lockdown, however, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 gave consideration for shops dealing on foodstuff in neighboring markets to open between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for people to replenish their stock at home, but with close monitoring by the security agencies and observance of personal hygiene and social distancing measures. The purpose of restriction of movement is to contain community transmission of the coronavirus and to trace and track down people who have been in contact with index cases. However, Ogun State officially commenced its lockdown on Friday, with the governor saying the lockdown will be total from the day of commencement till Tuesday, when all markets in the state would open between 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. every 2 days with intervals. He noted that the total lockdown of the state for the first 3 days was to allow for complete fumigation of the state to disinfect public places such as motor parks and markets. Apart from the states affected by the presidential directive, some other states have issued their own directives to residents with various types of restrictions, including partial lockdown. Since these measures, COVID-19 cases are still being recorded, with more recoveries and deaths. Many Nigerians, however, agree that the lockdown has been helpful, as the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 says tracing of about 6,000 contacts has reached advanced stages. How effective has the lockdown been so far, and what else needs to be done to contain COVID-19 in the country? Guest on Good Morning Nigeria will discuss these issues shortly. Many thanks, Oyemi Ajayi, for that backgrounder. We have guests with us here in the studios, and then we'll also be having other guests join us via Skype. But first, let's welcome Dr. Ramatu Tijani Aliu, who is the Honorable Minister of State for the Federal Capital Territory. Honorable Minister, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Good morning.
Also here with us in the studios is Dr. Moses Njoko, who is a virologist and senior research fellow in Department of Human Virology at the National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development. Dr. Njoko, pleasure to have you around on the program.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Okay.
All right, and via Skype from Akure is the executive director. Well, as a matter of fact, we have earlier planned to have 2 governors, one from Ondo State and then that of Jos. Now we are receiving signals that Ondo State Governor is ready for us. Now, so let's formally introduce the Executive Governor of Ondo State, His Excellency Governor Rotimi Akeredolu. He's also a Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Governor Akeredolu, good morning and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Nigeria, thank you.
All right, and also via Skype, well, we have not been able to establish contact with Jos because now we can talk to the governor of Plateau State. Via Skype, we have the executive governor of Plateau State and chairman, Northern Governors Forum, His Excellency Governor Simon Bako Lalong. Governor Lalong, it's good to have you join us this morning on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Kieran, and good morning, Kingsley, and others that are there. You're welcome.
Right. Your Excellencies, Honorable Minister and Dr. Njoko, once again, I'd like to have you join us on this conversation. We should actually begin with their Excellencies. Incidentally, Kieran, there was a day we were discussing security issues, and the 2 governors were also with us on the program. Governor Lalong was here in the studios, and Governor Akeredolu joined us via Skype, as he's doing today from Akure. Now, Governor Akeredolu of Ondo State and Governor Lalong of Plateau State, your 2 states are not among those states that are federally mandated to be on lockdown. But we do know that a number of states, have taking their own measures of shutting their entry and exit points as part of the containment steps against COVID-19. Just give us a sense of what is first playing out in your area of jurisdiction, beginning with Governor Akeredolu, Senior Advocate in Akure.
He said the federal government did not include us states, Ondo State as one of the states that was to have complete lockdown. But on our own, we took very important steps. We believe that crowding in schools had to be done with. So we closed down our schools, so our schools are not open. And we also decided that it was necessary for us to reduce crowding in the offices of our civil servants, where our civil servants are. So in that wise, we also reduce activities there. And when we say we reduce activities in the secretariat and other places where we have civil servants, and what we did was to say those on levels 1 to 12 should stay back. And if their services are needed, they will be called. So we have senior officials who are now manning our schools. Now, and the last thing we had to do when we found out that the markets were becoming uncontrollable is to close down the market totally. And we have done that, and from there proceeded to sanitize, fumigate our markets and public places. And when our neighbors, all of us agreed that we should close our borders, we also went ahead to do that. Those are the steps we're taking for now.
Let's go back to Jos, where we have the Governor Simon Bako Lalong. Just in the same vein of the question raised by Kingsley with respect to what you are doing in Jos for the containment of COVID-19. I have one interesting thing to raise about Jos, because last week, if what we read was right, there was this successful refurbishing of a ventilator in one of your hospitals. Is a ventilator that has been abandoned for so many years, but some smart engineers, were able to bring that, back to life. That's, well, as my colleague would say, another leg to what I wanted to talk about. So what are you doing in Jos, Plateau State capital, and of course other parts of the state to ensure that COVID-19 is contained on the plateau?
All right, Kieran, it looks like the Skype connection to Jos is frozen in the meantime. I don't know how soon the engineers will clear that up. But otherwise, once the connection is restored, then we'll return to His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State. Well, let's come back to our studios here and then bring in the Honorable Minister of State for the FCT. The FCT has been on lockdown, according to the President's directive, after he gave his nationwide broadcast last Sunday. What has been the official assessment of compliance with the lockdown in the Federal Capital Territory?
Thank you very much for that question. Practically, the day one of the lockdown directive enjoyed relative compliance. Day two, well, the sit-at-home became partial because there was a misunderstanding out there that the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 said they could all come out from morning till evening. And we had that to contain with because we had to embark immediately on sensitization exercise before the Presidential Task Force cleared the air. Now we have a situation of coming out for the markets, or to the markets in the morning at 10 and to 2 p.m. But practically the setting of the Federal Capital Territory, if you look at it, most of those who actually deal in these vegetables and perishable items come from the satellite towns and the villages. So that is also adding to the chaos we find, at the marketplaces. But by and large, for the elites, many who understand the language and the danger, in the spread of COVID-19, are in strict adherence for the safety of the family. But practically, we will say in the Federal Capital Territory, we are also thinking of taking further measures, maybe to practically shut the city, center, the Federal Capital City now in itself, Gariki, Maitama, Asokoro, having identified them as the most exposed areas, because if we see with the index cases we got here, all of them are concentrated within, not from the satellite towns. So it will do us some, it will take a very huge leap if we close, coming in by the villagers. And we are thinking of regulating maybe twice a week to see how vendors, identified vendors, and maybe well-kitted will come in to serve the market. Secondly, we are looking at also regulating the market activities, not making it business as usual, so that the larger markets like Otako, Wuse, Gariki be shut permanently, where, if possible, the neighborhood centers will be used now, for that is the essence. Your neighborhood center will serve just practically where you are from. That will also reduce the possibility of this spread from one district to the other. You can see in some areas we've not even within the city center, the Federal Cap FCC now, there is no case at all. In some estates, you will hear one or two. There are not many here. So the moment we are able to curtail movement and it's restricted within, that will further give us a step in curtailing the spread of the virus. What do I mean by this? When we leave these villagers to come in actually, or the people from the satellite towns, the difficulties, the fear of this community spread of the coronavirus. It might be easy here because we can even fully implement the social distancing because of the space we have and the pattern of, settlement. But if you go to satellite towns where you have 20 people in a room in the Federal Capital Territory for everybody wants to just be around the city. Now, in that case, God forbid, should we have 1-2 cases, I'm sorry, it will be huge and it will delve a very huge blow. So we are taking steps, but besides that now, we are also embarking on advocacy. So we are seeing even the satellite towns are beginning to adhere, unlike the first 1-2 days, where you have Kwali, Abuja and Kuje bustling until we're able to send the law enforcement agents to get them to actually sit at home. And we are using the royal fathers to do that, and community leaders to communicate in their various dialects, for they will believe more one of their own speaking to them. So we do have advocacy teams also doing that.
All right, thank you, Minister of State. We learned that Jos is through now via Skype, so we can bring in the governor of Plateau State. Governor Long, I take it you heard me the first time, but we couldn't connect after the question. But the bottom line is, what are you doing in Plateau State to ensure the containment of COVID-19?
Thank you very much, Kiri, and let me also welcome on board my sister, the Minister of State, Dr. Ramatu, Minister of State. Yes, I know, Eketi.
No.
Thank you very much. What happened in Plateau was, what we did was, first of all, you remember that there was a crisis in Bokos, and within the time period of the crisis, we had done a stakeholders committee. I invited, I set up a very large, a very all-encompassing stakeholders committee for security, to address the issue of security. So when the issue of COVID-19 came, I quickly converted the stakeholders meeting into addressing the issue of the virus. And within that committee, you had the chiefs, the chairman council of chiefs, the traditional rulers, the religious leaders, the youth council, the disabled, the farmers, the transporters, the security organizations, and everybody. Now, with this, it was the issue of the virus. And so what we did was quickly to set up committees. We set up 5 committees. There was the awareness committee, we had the awareness committee, we had the security committee, we had the enforcement committee, and all other committees that were addressing the boundary, all our boundaries. So immediately what I did, and I made myself the chairman of that committee. The committee on coronavirus. So I am the chairman of the committee. As the chairman of the committee, I started inspection of some of the facilities that we had. We have in Jute, we went to Jos University Teaching Hospital to look at the isolation center. We went to the Birmingham University Teaching Hospital. We went to Plateau State Specialist Hospital, and all other isolation facilities in several of the places. Now, in the course of my inspection, I realized that there were complaints about ventilators, there were complaints about thermometers, for infrared thermometers, and so many other facilities. So what I did was, first of all, to say that in all the isolations, I quickly bought ventilators, bought some things to put in those. And we started with our border because we didn't go immediately to lockdown. Because in the course of our discussions with marketers, we said, no, let's give them time to prepare. We didn't want to lock people and people will start complaining. So we said, okay, give you time to prepare. And because we are eventually going to start locking down. So with market women and everybody, so we went back. We bought all these facilities because already there were suspects. There were some cases of suspicions of some Chinese people, about 43 of them, who came back from the airport and sneaked into Wase. So our own test case started with those Chinese 43. But eventually we were very lucky that all of them, after the test proof, they were all negative. So in the course of that, we started going around and blocking all our boundaries. So eventually, the team reports to me on daily basis. Although I don't attend the meeting always, but I make sure as a chairman, I stand down to oversee all other people who are working, and also to be sure to oversee all of them that were working, and they get back and it's a daily basis. They report on daily basis. So whatever they do at the field, they come back to report to me. And from time to time, I also address the press, just like I'm going to address the press today. So after a while, I always address the press. So I must say that I thank God, not because of my magic, but up to today, we've not had any case of the virus. Of an index in Plateau State, but all the other areas that we did, a few of them that came that were very serious, mostly were people who ran away and sneak into the state from other states, because many of them, about 3 or 4 cases from Lagos and about 3 cases from the FCT. But the rest, what we do is that because of our discussions with people, we say all the traditional rulers, all the religious leaders, wherever you see a suspicion of anybody or any serious sickness or anybody sneaking in from anywhere, tell us. We run to that place, we quarantine the person, we take the blood sample and we send it down to Abuja for the testing. And but in terms of our isolation centers, you know that we have just University Teaching Hospital, and we also made publicity. In the course of our publicity, we saw individuals from Plateau State contributing money. And in order to be sure of transparency, I set up a trust fund. So a special trust fund for coronavirus. And out of our trust fund, we realized almost 30 million out of that trust fund. But we have not taken anything yet from the trust fund. But what we do is that we set a trust fund in case we exhaust our financial energy in the state. But part of what we did also in the state is to address for preventive measures, to be proactive. As it is today, we have already arranged, and by Thursday, we are going to eventually lock down the state because fumigation will start. We are going to do fumigation all over the state, not only in the state capital, but all over the 17 local governments. So all this we do with awareness, and we give people advance notice so that they get prepared for eventualities.
Goes up. All right, Your Excellency, Governor Lalong, thank you very much there for your opening salvo. We will return to you in the course of the conversation, but I would urge Your Excellency to also listen to this question because it's relevant to you as well. But let's go over to your brother governor, Learned Senior Advocate Akeredolu, who is governor of Ondo State. It's been said that one of the conditions precedent for the efficacy of a lockdown is public enlightenment. A while ago, we had with us the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, and he indicated part of the resistance that their communication messaging is getting, social and cultural, and indeed perception. Persons, countrywide, some persons believe that this is a disease that afflicts people, who are in the UK or in Europe, or elsewhere in Europe, or in the US, or who have come from those places. Or if you are in Nigeria, then you must be a big man because they hear of some of the affluent neighborhoods where these persons, have been identified as having coronavirus. How is this kind of perception impacting on the measures that you have taken to contain the virus, so that people will understand that if you tell them not to come to the market, this is the reason why you are telling them not to do so. If you tell them not to come to school or come to work, this is the reason, and that you are not just merely declaring an extended public holiday.
I told you the composition of our stakeholders. And our stakeholders' composition even went down to the grassroots. We started with the grassroots. It took almost a week.
Apologize. It looks like Governor Lalong was taking that question, and the question was directed to Governor Akeredolu. But I had earlier indicated that Governor Lalong should note the question. We'll return to him. But in the meantime, let's give the opportunity to Governor Akeredolu to respond to the question. Your Excellency.
I only wanted to help him.
Thank you. I thank you, SB, for trying to help me. I thank you. Let me say this. We are a peculiar state. That is Ondo State. Why do I say we are peculiar? We face almost yearly situation of this nature. So our people have grown to know what steps to take and what we need to do. Because unfortunately for us, Lassa fever do come here seasonally. We have always addressed them about cleanliness, about all things they have to do to avoid Lassa fever. So when the issue of coronavirus came up, it became easier for us because we have experience in this. We have isolation centers in Federal Medical Center in Owo. We have the Infectious Disease Hospital here in Akure. And so what we try to do is that let's inform our people that in areas, because usually issue of Lassa fever occur more in the northern central district. So they are prepared. So direct our energy more on our people in the central and south central district. So a lot of things have gone in terms of publicity. We have billboards littered, that's littered the whole states. We also do a lot of promotion work on the radio, the state radio and television. So a lot of publicity has gone on. And I can assure you, it has always been a lot that we take advantage of our level of illiteracy. Literacy in Ondo State, by and large, it's easier to manage people here because they take responsibilities themselves, because the people here are largely literate, and we do have people in the interior, and most of them have children who are outside who tell them also, who communicate with them, and we have used churches, we have used mosques, and you can always imagine that, look, in Ondo State, most of our churches on their own, most of the places of worship on their also even stopped people from coming. Even when we have said you can syndicate your worship, have about 50 per session, but most of them decided we'll close our border, we'll close services and listen to the services are now done via Skype or via other means, new media. So for me, in those states, it's not been something that is arduous. We have committees in place. Our own committee on coronavirus is headed by the Commissioner for Health and assisted by the State Special Advisor on Health. So they are working. They also report to me every day. I get to know. So at the end of the day, yes, we have had one index case now in Ondo State. And I said to our people, I've addressed the people that, look, there is no need for you to be afraid because luckily for us, this incident happened in the barracks. And the gentleman officer that was involved came in from India and on his own went on self-isolation. So he was contained within the barracks and even a few people. So line tracing in that respect was easy. So I believe that our people are listening. Initially, there will be issue of resistance about market because people are thinking about the economies of survival. But we have made them appreciate this fact. Look, we'll create time for market. We'll create time for people to do one or two things because you can move freely within the state. We have not locked down anywhere here. You move freely within the state, but we say close your market shop where you can be crowded, close schools, and reduce number of people who come to secretariat to work. So I think these have been most effective in this state.
The two governors for actually coming on the show this morning to educate Nigerians, not just those of them in their various states, but the entire Nigerians, especially their fellow governors, in different parts of the country, which is also emulate what they are doing. At this point, we'll come back to you later, but at this point, let's return to Abuja and talk to the only professional that we have here with us. Dr. Moses Njoku is a virologist and, of course, senior research fellow, Department of Human Virology, National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development. Dr. Moses, you know what the medical personnel on the front line are seeing at the moment. These are people who are faced with a medical war, who are fighting an invisible virus, which has no definitive medication. Now, what kind of medication can produce new therapeutic antibodies for coronavirus treatment? I wanted to make this assessment, based on the fact that the virus has a strange strain, which is new to the world. But for the fact that people are recovering means that there's something positive is being done. Can you share your thoughts on this?
Thank you very much. The virus is, at the moment, doesn't have any particular medicine that is directly an anti-coronavirus medicine. But what everybody is using is supportive medicine. This supportive medicine can help to take care of fever, can help to assist the person when they are battling to save the respiratory system, which is being attacked by the virus. And when that is being done, you need something. These people have, some of them will have infections, some of them will have other health conditions. So you need something that will help to keep the system going. And in that process, we have a lot of countries using antiretroviral drugs because these are viruses. And these antiretroviral drugs, they believe will have effect on the virus itself because they are all inflammatory viruses. They destroy the cells, they cause super reactions of the body, they cause a lot of deaths on the cells and the tissue. So because of that, many countries have used antiretroviral drugs to work towards reducing the viral load, that is the level of virus growing in the system. But right here, what we did, what we are doing, like what we did during the Ebola time, we were able to come up with two products that time. They were all the same thing based on, that was based on chloroquine and other antibiotic combination, which was now used, was to be used to face Ebola, which is similar family of the virus. And we also had an anti-inflammatory drug, which we called Niprimune, the Niprid. and it was also, NTA has also carried it. And that's also because there are a lot of things that happen at that time that do inflammation in the system, and you need an anti-inflammatory medicine. Now, what everybody is doing, whether it's hydroxychloroquine, whether it is chloroquine and antibiotics, antiviral agents, is to work and wait so that we can now get the actual anti-coronavirus drug.
Please, I would like you to make a clarification. Now that you mentioned the hydroxychloroquine, we know that within the last 1 week, the U.S. President Trump has propounded that. But of course, the CDC head of the U.S. also said no, that treatment is slow and has not given any scientific result that can make one to depend on that. So, because, why I want to say that is because many Nigerians have been acquiring chloroquine and keeping it waiting for any clarification for them to start taking chloroquine as a treatment for coronavirus. I wanted to clarify that. And we also know that those who are most vulnerable at the moment are those who have perhaps a compromised immune system and those who have other diseases in their system before catching coronavirus.
If you listen to what they say is the symptoms, one of them is fever. That is one thing that actually tells you okay, we can use drugs that are used for fever to manage. You also know that people that have lost their immune system strength will now have other infections coming up. That's where you have antibiotics. You may not be very specific, but you have kind of a broad spectrum antibiotics which will now take care of any of such infections. And the issue is in the circumstance that we have nothing, you cannot just wait. And then it has been proven, even during Ebola, that you have supportive treatment. In this supportive treatment, you have a combination or cocktail of many drugs that are related to that same anti-inflammatory, fever, antibiotics, bacteria or other microbial infections. So you don't have to wait and say until you now approve drug. Just like during the HIV, when the HIV started, there was no drug. But people were being treated with other drugs which are now trying to take care of, stimulating their immune system, boosting their immune system. And as they continue to sustain that, drugs were being developed. Right now, you see that people are saying, we have a vaccine that is coming up in US, in Israel, but you can't go into them. You can use this opportunity, even those drugs that we're talking about, those chloroquine and supportive cocktails. You can use this same opportunity to now test them. The CDC is now talking like this because they have seen, and they're telling us now, we have not seen that difference. So they can say that. But at the moment, supportive drugs are meant to, take the patient on intensive care, to hold on the patient on intensive care. If you go to a doctor, first of all, he will give you something. He's suspecting something, he sends you to the lab to go and do tests. When you come back, he will now give you specifics because he has now gotten the real thing that is worrying you.
Dr. Moses Njoko, I would like to stay with you and still on the issue of lockdown, because the key purpose of a lockdown is to contain or otherwise prevent community spread.
Yeah.
What do we know about the behavior of this coronavirus? Okay. Somehow, there's some mapping of Lassa fever virus. There's some mapping of it. I mean, when Lassa fever is ravaging known parts of the country, the rest parts, are on their own business. But what we have seen with coronavirus, I mean, when you look at Italy, for instance, Italy locked down. Spain locked down. There's a debate now in the U.S. whether you should have a nationwide lockdown or leave it only to New York and elsewhere. And in the course of the lockdowns that we saw, even in China and in most parts of Europe, there was still, the numbers were still climbing in terms of cases being identified. Now, once again, what do we know about the behavior of this virus? And considering our behaviors, I say behaviors.
Yeah.
An actress has been arrested for hosting a party when she's supposed to be observing the social distance. If we were to go to the suburbs and markets, people are just walking about as if nothing is happening. I'm not sure you're likely to find that abroad. So what do we know about the behavior of this virus that could aid us further in the messaging with regard to the essence of a lockdown and social distancing?
Well, I start by saying that lockdown is one of the most practical and the biggest arm of the social distancing. Just look at dominoes game, the fallen dominoes. That is what you're trying to do. Remove one domino and then you have your community safe. But allow the dominoes to fall. No matter how you arrange it, even if you arrange it from here to America, all of them will fall. Because once the next falls to the other one, it goes down. And no matter the community it enters, it will just don't remove anyone. So what is the thing is that the lockdown is one of the biggest challenge, yet one of the biggest success of a social distancing. Yes, if you are able to contain it in communities, if you listen to the governor, he tells you we found 4 Chinese. He mentioned was a local government. So if, for instance, now that nobody enters or gets out of Wase, the virus will remain in Wase. Because what happens is that the virus is that you must have a droplet from one person to the next person. You must have to get it from the person directly, either when he's sneezing or coughing, or when that droplet has dropped on the surface, which you use hand or any part or any format to take. And then once you get that, the person has taken it. And once the person has taken it, the next person that is near him will take it. And unfortunately, it has a very small live, incubation period of, say, 1 to 5 days. So what is like that? Because 1 to 5 days, that person can carry what he has gotten from the other person, which he has not actually thrown away or discharged or has only swallowed all in his body, in his cloth, in his hand, and it gets to the next person. So it's not a question of saying when that person has incubated and is now transmitted. He can actually physically transmit what he has gotten from the next person to the next person. So if you look at that game where the dominoes is falling, that is what the lockdown is doing. Yes, we might not get it right to say everybody should go and observe 1 meter, 2 meter social distancing. We may not get it. But if you're able to now lock up communities and nobody is coming out or getting into that community, you have done a very great job. You have done a whole lot of the whole work that you are anticipating to do. So the good thing is we should know that this is what the virus does. The moment the next person gets it physically or he incubates and transmits, he gives to the next person or persons as much as he has.
All right, Dr. Moses Njoko. Even he said now that even by talking alone,
yes,
because you can give it to somebody. Yeah. There's no gainsaying the fact that many countries took the virus for granted at the initial stage. No doubt about that. And before they knew it, the thing permeated the system, the fabric of society. That is what happened in Italy and elsewhere. And we hope, well, Nigeria we started too early, very early, to tackle this, even at the close to the the index case we had in Lagos. Now, Honorable Minister of State, looking at the FCT, of course, the lockdown is working partially, so to speak, because if you get around satellite towns, it does appear that it's business as usual, as you have also pointed out. Now, let's look at some measures being taken to also ensure that people are locked down without bearing so much grudges. Not talking about palliatives, involved. Let's talk about that, because if people are locked down, especially those on daily pay, who can no longer fend for themselves for now, not because they don't have the capacity, but because, of course, there's a lockdown. What is the plan of the FCT for such persons? And if you do have such plan, how do you locate them? Because anybody can appear as a daily paid worker to come and get something from you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Before I even get in there, the Honorable Minister Mohammed Bello, being the overall chairman now of the FCT COVID-19 team, quickly put together the team of the religious bodies, being Khan and the League of Imams here in the Federal Capital Territory, civil society organization, royal fathers, representatives of various sectors, and the legislative arm. We're able to bring everybody on board to discuss common measures. And we agreed, actually, and that is why from the beginning, even from the outbreak of the Lassa fever, the Federal Capital Territory was on top of the game because we had advocacy teams across the Federal Capital Territory educating on personal hygiene and teaching them how to go about it. I've been the chairperson of that also team, physically officiated and went around the communities to demonstrate to them what to do and not to do. So they've been taking abreast, personal hygiene to some extent. And then the royal fathers also keyed in and gave us some maximum support, for they also spoke to their followers to adhere strictly. Even though, as we know, Nigerians and our, love for the religion, it was a little bit resisted, but then with the task force and the cooperation of the leaders, that was also, contained to some reasonable extent.
So why are we still having business as usual, as Kirian said, in the outlying suburbs? I mean, Abuja has 6 area councils, and these guys are coming and out, into the city.
I will take you there practically.
Yes.
The first day was good for all satellite towns. We went around and we saw, until they had that information that they could come to the market. Like I made clear at Benisho, most of these people who transact these businesses are domiciled in the satellite towns. So that kind of, broke our rules and regulation. That was the first place we got it wrong. Because we had already perfected we had tags for everybody. We were taking numbers of, identified organized traders, where phone calls will be made by the elites to deliver at the doorsteps for a total lockdown. And we are ready for that. We also have the organized markets, the market heads, identifying those that are, mobile, that will transact, giving them some days of the week to come in and deliver to the neighborhood markets. But this rule came, and eventually the center could not hold. The Federal Capital Territory happens to not only be operating like a state, but also hosts the federal government. So in this now, there was a kind of conflict of understanding. But now, as it is, the task force and the agreement of the Federal Capital Territory with the police commissioner, the instruction is also given that I think from within this week, there will be a total lockdown. We will try to implement that, for we have identified that.
What will be the nature of this total lockdown?
The city center especially, where we have all the indexed cases domiciled in, will be completely shut to the entrance of the people from the center.
Madam, what about palliative measures? Let me make it clearer. Are you sharing food items?
Yes,
people?
We are going to do that.
That's what. How are you doing that? Are the right people getting the what?
We have not started distributing because we decided to form a structure, and this structure now we have the Central Working Committee at the top. I head in that Central Working Committee as appointed by the Honorable Minister. Then all the composition of representatives of the two, major religions, the Christians and the Muslim League, the League of Imam, that's the CAN, and then the civil society, the two representatives of the Federal Capital Territory, and then the Senate, representative of the Senate, that's the senator representing Federal Capital Territory, being member, the PAMSEC, and then the Algon chairman, who is representing the area council chairman at that level. Then the FEMA, the SDS, like that in the committee, we have a committee of 9. Now, these are saddled with responsibility of coordinating distribution from the stores now to the area councils.
Okay, Honorable Minister, say thanks a lot. We'll have the opportunity of returning to you to give some more explanation. Let's return to Jos with the Governor of Plateau. His Excellency Governor Lalong, Governor of Plateau. Well, the question I posed to Governor Akredolo is still on the table for you. That's with regard to public enlightenment, but you may wish to skip that and then deal with perhaps also the more practical issues relating to a lockdown. Earlier, you were talking about shall we say loosely, rogue elements who are sneaking in or sneaking out of Plateau. Some have come in from the FCT, others have come from one or two neighboring states. In that sense, would you, as some persons have suggested, advocate a complete lockdown of the entire country so that, we deal with each of them as you find in the environment? The virologist here in our midst has given some scientific explanation as to the benefit of that. That's one. Second part of the question relates to again, some of the issues we have to deal with. The point has come up that the structure of our economy is such that persons have to fend for themselves, live from hand to mouth on a daily basis. And if therefore you have a total shutdown, how will they fit? Which raises the perspective of palliatives. Your thoughts on this, Your Excellency?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kingsley. And yes, I was going to get to that. And I want to still emphasize on the issue of public enlightenment. What I said we did in the state also, we also translate the same thing to the local government councils. So the committees that are here on enlightenment are the same committee. We replicated them at the local government council. And in order to find coordination, I set up a situation room in Jos. And this situation room collects information and data from all the local governments on a daily basis. This enhances our surveillance and contact tracing across the state. So anywhere we have cases like that, we do our best to be sure that we get it quickly, and then we address. We also address the issue. When talking about palliative, I told you that was why we were not in a haste to start locking down.
Your Excellency, you've been locked down by the signals. We hope there's no corona in the signals.
All right, we've just lost him for a while. Let's hope that the signal comes clearer in the nearest future. For now, let's go to Ondo State, where we have Governor Akeredolu of that state. I hope he's still there with us. Your Excellency, coming from the question that Kingsley raised, and that has to do with enlightenment, which you told us a short while ago, that you already have a structure for such because of the state's history of Lassa fever. Now, away from that, Ondo is not on lockdown yet. We're not praying that you get locked down in the state, but if there are possibilities of doing that, I'm sure you are going to do it. And in that circumstance, do you have any plan or projections or what could happen in terms of, providing some measure of palliatives for the people of Ondo State if that occurs?
What we have done really is this. We have a very powerful committee on issue of palliatives. And as of today, we have stocked so much of foodstuff that will be going out by today to all the nook and crannies of the state. And this is deliberate because since we have closed down our markets, a lot of people have no access to food. Their livelihood itself is affected because a number of us live by the day. It is work and eat, as you say, happens to many of our people because of the nature of their lives. So we have set up committees and we are receiving, and we have even received in kind foodstuff and so many other things from very respected donors who have given us some things. And these are the things we are going to start distributing to all the nooks and crannies. And their own line of distribution is this. We have said that, look, we must create at the local government another committee on palliative, and that is to be headed by the another committee on palliatives, and that is to be headed by each commissioner that comes from that local government, supported by a member of the House of Assembly, and so many other groups, and all of them are there. That is where the issue of palliatives are going to be tackled could, mainly. But what we do at the central area is for us to be the aggregators of all the needs that we can assess before we send them to the local government for distribution to people in the units, in the wards, and co. But one thing is certain here. We have said we are not on lockdown. We can say we are not on total lockdown. We have closed our borders to prevent people from coming in as they like. And we have also put in place health units in our respective borders that even when somebody has a very essential job to do and is coming from another state, then he has to be tested. And we do the infrared, we do get the temperature and know whether he has symptoms. So a lot of things have been put in place. So our markets are not opening, as I said, schools are not opened, number of civil servants at work are reduced, totally reduced. So we are partial lockdown. But that people are able to move around. Nobody can go to clubhouse. I mean, the security agents know about that. And where people cluster, we have mandated our security agents to get them arrested. So we have taken many steps. It's just that we are not saying don't come out. But they know in their best interest. When you come out today, these days in Ondo State, you can't see people crowding together because people try to avoid that. Self-preservation is what matters. And I believe that everybody wants to live, so why would you now want to be in a crowd? So I believe that this measure for now, if we have any spread beyond one that we have now, then we have to take more drastic measures.
All right. Thank you very much, Governor Akredolu. Let's return to Jos. We understand the signals are okay now. Governor Lalong, I mean, just take it from where you stopped. Two pending questions. One, for more effectiveness, would you advocate a system-wide lockdown rather than this lockdown that you are having in your state and individual states acting on their own, as it were? And thirdly, if then you are in a lockdown, how do you ameliorate the hardship on the people, most likely the poorest of the poor and low-income earners?
Thank you very much. You realize that I mentioned about the trust fund, Corona Trust Fund. By now, we've reached a target of over 30 million already. And then what I did too is that in my state, I pay salaries as and when due. And before we even did the partial lockdown, I paid them their salaries for this month. For that is the month of we're in April now. So March. So we paid salaries. I told them, for the civil servants, all of you that are going to be partially locked down, don't complain. You are going to take your salary, and within your salary, preserve and also make sure that you prepare for this. So we paid the salaries, and part of what we are doing with the trust fund is to envisage that at the end of the day, if worse comes to worse, we will do a lockdown. Like I said, by the time we go on fumigation of all the states, there is no doubt that we may also embark on a total lockdown. And within the total lockdown, we have some reserves. We are already purchasing grains and storing them, especially for the vulnerable. Now, when you talk about palliatives, it's not for everybody. It's not always for everybody. There are people who already have, and then you should also prepare. Now, when we talk about making palliative first, the first line charge for palliatives are those who are vulnerable. You understand, I mentioned about the disabled who are all members of this committee. And so when we do that, we go down to vulnerable, those who cannot afford at all. And in synergy with the federal government, we've worked out to the Governors Forum, and then we send in our needs. And we are very hopeful that federal government is also going to do something. And within that, what they have done, we will also address. They are already addressing the issue of cash transfer. They are addressing the issue of issues about the poorest of the poor. And all those things will go a long way in making sure, because like everybody believes, at the end of the day, I think total lockdown is necessary, because we want to have to address these issues. Because we see people breaching the laws. You say don't do this. In societies, you will have a lot of people. Some people will want to test your strength or test your ability to know when
We have on-air lockdown this time around again, and let's come back to Abuja. I'm sure Governor Lalon has made his point, a very, very valid point he has made there. Now let's get back here to our Minister of State, FCT, on palliatives.
Okay, the FCT has a very robust team on the ground, and this cuts across from top to bottom to the units, the ward level of the Federal Capital Territory. And here now we have identified vulnerable and low income earners within the Federal Capital Territory. So this distribution of palliatives will be done door to door, using the door-to-door exercise. And now, having identified the houses, when we arrive at the doorsteps, you have the team, the same structure up, is the same structure you have at the local government level and down to the community level, the ward unit. Now, at these units, you have the supervisory councillor, the religious, all of them being members to identify the households that are actually housing the vulnerable, so the low-income earners. And then, peculiarly, in some places, you will find where more than one family are resident in a particular, building, or the face might face you kind of. That will also be identified. Definitely, we know ourselves. It's a community thing. When within there, and it is identified, the heads of the families, the various families will come out. Only the heads of the family in the Federal Capital Territory, so that we do not expose in turn, in trying to take palliatives to the people we are trying to protect, expose them to the same virus. So these three people or four in the family will come out to receive.
How do you deal with boundary communities? I mean, the Nasarawa State is one of the neighboring states to the Federal Capital Territory. Any person can ride from one-man village to Masaka, Mararaba, and then you find yourself Nyanya, and then you are in Abuja. How do you deal with that? Yeah. What is the arrangement with Nasarawa? Because the reports we have been receiving tend to suggest that the bikers, everybody just moving about as business as usual. You go to Zuba, which is Niger, as part of Niger State, and then you still have that challenge. How are you dealing with that?
Yes, very briefly. Like I said before, we had intensified security. The CP has been briefed again, and he's been authorized to fortify the boundaries within, and no more entrances from there, and bikes will be stopped. And for all our staff, all members that really needed to come in, if they are tagged, they will now come in with the permit of the Federal Capital Territory. It is sealed completely.
All right, well, I just remember my own door, when you were sharing the politics.
Are you part of the people? Are you qualified to be?
Door, you mean door by door? If you come to my door and drop something, won't I pick it?
No. Identified vulnerable Nigerians. And besides that, again, there is also a channel. You can also use the Wazobia radio station or the ordinary Ahmed. It is open 2 hours to complain if you are eligible. And you find that you are skipped, you will communicate.
Well, all right, that's a smart one they have done.
I'm Honorable Minister of State, and I'm sure everybody. Kirian is a chief, and he's claiming that he's vulnerable. We're going to report it to the.
I have my subjects.
He is one of the people who are expecting donations from. You should give back to the society.
I have my subjects that I'm
Your
going to
subjects are in Enugu State
as well. So I'm like attracting something to them. The vulnerable are within my area. All right, we have tweets from Nigerians.
Sorry, don't forget I'm also vulnerable.
Well, we have tweets from Nigerians who are making contribution to this conversation. Let's begin with Amos. He said the lockdown must continue. No state should think it's over. How many test results have we got? If we miss it now in a hurry, we may be too sorry. The lockdown is not holiday. It's an effort to slow down the spread of the disease. However, if we rush out of it and result in disaster, then God forbid, African cases will be rising.
Now, but I must say, Adamu, those in the satellite towns need to be educated on the dangers of coronavirus. And this can be done through traditional rulers and associations in the community as well as the primary healthcare centers.
Absolutely.
Hassan Labran says the lockdown system has significantly facilitated and redoubled the efforts of government in tackling the virus, in spite of the fact that the virus is hydra-headed in nature. However, government should, as a matter of urgency and sincerity, step up all airport testing apparatus.
Uche Gabriel, Nigerians should not see the lockdown as punishment by the government, but rather they should see it as a means by the government to curtail the spread of COVID-19.
Now, Abdulmalik Aliu Abu Sophia. He said the lockdown measure is a welcome idea since it aims to tackle the spread of the coronavirus. However, the federal government must ensure that the palliative put in place reach its final destination. It should not be diverted while on transit.
We told us Sunday, the lockdown is really helping in containing the spread of the virus and must therefore be sustained to achieve more meaningful results.
Dawson Ibogu say, good day, the entire Good Morning Nigeria crew and staff. I watch the program regularly here in Japan. Is there any provision in place to hold your guests or contributors accountable on promises made during the program, particularly when the issue discussed remains unabated? Thank you. Well, the only way to get a feedback is through the program as well.
That's right.
If the promises did not come to fruition, we'll let you know via GMN. Thank you for watching us all the way from Japan.
Now, Dele Jack Solomon, many countries are working hard to keep their economies going. For example, to support the economy, protect the well-being of their people and dissuade citizens from leaving their homes. Nigerians hand out months' welfare payments upfront in certain areas should not be compromised.
Comrade Aladin Gala, it is the duty of the National Orientation Agency and other media stations to enlighten the nation on dangers of these deadly disease and other national issues. Kudos to NTA for enlightening the people 24 hours.
Now, Cecilia Okoroma, the big manism of most Nigerians makes it impossible for the lockdown to be very effective. COVID-19 is ravaging the entire world and no respecter of anyone, and it should teach citizens to strictly adhere to measures that will help government contain the disease.
Zimbe Sabo Gushi said Governor Lalong should tell us what he's doing to upgrade the isolation centers as identified, especially those in the local government area. I think he mentioned one or two things that have been done.
Yeah, he mentioned a number of locations. That's right.
Done, yes.
Okay, Kieran, I think we have to freeze our tweets for now, and also, of course, thank our guests from Akure, capital of Ondo State. We're joined by the governor of Ondo State, His Excellency Akeredolu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I would like to thank you for being with us on the program this morning.
You're a great player. Thank you so much for taking me.
And we also would like to thank His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State, Governor Lalong, who is also chairman of the Northern Governors Forum. Your Excellency, notwithstanding the occasional freezes that we saw on your connection, we really appreciate your being with us on the program today.
Thank you very much, but I was a little bit locked down by the network too, in Jos. So, but I appreciate. Thank you very much.
All right, Your Excellency, unlock the lockdown, and then we'll take it from there. Right here in the Abuja studios, deep appreciation to the Honorable Minister of State of the Federal Capital Territory, Dr. Ramatu Tijani Aliyu. Thank you for being with us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Moses Njoku, virologist, who is at the Department of Human Virology at NIPRI, National Institute for Pharmaceutical Research and Development. Thank you for being with us on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, so that does it for us today. We thank you for tuning in. The program returns same time tomorrow, 7 o'clock in the morning. Stay safe, and if you are in a lockdown zone, please obey the rules. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kirian Umayo. Thank you for watching. For our viewer in Japan, please stay safe because, of course, we know there's a spike of COVID-19 in that country.